The other thing that I loved about this art form in particular, largely because of what I just said, it's unpretentious. There's no pretense in this, and it's got the fundamental values that we all as deep in our DNA. Yeah. Man, animal, in the environment, the dome of the sky, affecting light and bounced light, all that stuff is really cool, really interesting and fun to paint. And it's elemental and it's deep within us, you know, so I really love that about it. There were artists that spent their entire lives painting nothing but landscape, Bierstadt, Edgar Payne, William Wendt, did nothing but that. Guys that did nothing but paint horses, Stubbs. The great A.J. Munnings. People who were pure figure painters, Sorolla, Zorn, people like that. What's so cool about this is you get to paint all three at the same time. There's no chance of getting bored. There's so much to learn. There's no chance of thinking, I arrived. I'm here. Nobody's ever done this to this degree. Everybody's done it to this degree. What we're trying to do today is recapture what the greats of the past knew. We're not really advancing the art form. We're just trying to get back to what those guys knew. Outdoor painting. I was walking out of the Monte Vista Hotel in 1982, and a guy walking in who I had previously met a little bit before. His name was Earl Carpenter, and he was a pretty well-known painter. And he said, I think we had met, I'd gotten to his studio before that, and we had a visit. He said, "You want to be an artist?" I said, "Huh?" I was rocking back on my heels. And he said, "Okay, do yourself a favor. Leave the camera at home and go get an outdoor easel and start painting outside." I said, "Okay." I didn't know any better. I scraped together a couple of $100 and I went out and did it. And I tried it for the first time, fell completely on my face, had no idea what I was doing. But something said, look, it's this hard, it's gotta be valuable. But I remember something Bob Lockheed said. I didn't know him, I wish I had. Sorry to drop the name, but he said after you've done your first 1,000, you start to get the hang of this. You might start to figure some of this out. Well, that's a really helpful statement because it tells me that I can fall on my face for, I don't know, 5 years of working hard doing this, and just because you're not getting the results that you think you should be getting, that's not necessarily a bad thing, stay the course. When I was trying to get this whole thing going, and I was painting outside a lot, and I wasn't getting results. At least they weren't coming fast enough for me. I'm a fairly impatient person, and I'm not uptight at all. And it was obvious because I was struggling to be good. And I met a painter by the name of Mike Lynch. And I'd seen his work come up in the magazines. And I said to Peggy, if this guy is ever on the docket at Scottsdale Art School, I got to take from him because this guy really knows what he's doing. This is really extraordinary stuff at a really a great level. And so just, I don't know, by happenstance, a couple months later, he's there and signed up. And well, we locked eyeballs and that was it. I mean, he's probably my best friend in the business. But he taught me something I don't think I could have gotten from anybody else. I'm not the painter Mike is, but he taught me how to lighten up. Taught me how to relax and have fun a little, you know, have the joy of this experience come out the end of your arm. That's what it's supposed to be. I was like, I'm gonna be a good artist someday. If you're not having fun at the easel, it shows. If I'm going to, you know, really try to take this to another level for me, then I need to start painting the animal from life. Well, that was another kick in the head because I got out there and I thought, well, can anybody do this? But you know, you realize that because of the stupid computer and the camera, it allows you to be fairly ignorant about the whole process and take shortcuts that you ought not if you really want to learn. And you realize this is what artists did for centuries. They just went out in the field and they painted. So, you know, I started doing that. Horses from Life. Oh gosh, I was at a ranch in Montana about 3 years ago, and they were branding cattle over here. And I said to the foreman, have you got a favorite horse? And he said, yeah, the sorrel over here. So I tied him up and I painted him while they were working, and I was able to hand him the painting. You know, it was really, that's makes you feel really good. Makes you feel like an artist. I ran into Joe Beeler. A lot of you remember Joe. And I was still working at the radio station when I accosted him in Flagstaff. And I was working with a photographer who was going out and getting a lot of pictures at ranches, and I was trading artwork for reference work. And I work from photographs a lot, really. I use them really extensively. But I was talking to Joe about this. Joe didn't use that kind of thing at all. He was just completely seating his pants out of his head, drawing, and he said, what you have to decide is what would you do? What would happen to your career if Kodak went out of business? Boy, that really stuck with me. That was really an important thing to hear for a young kid. He says, you better have the goods. You better have the real chops. So no matter what's going on, if the power goes out or whatever, you can still go to work. I came across this a few years ago. It is the best thing I've ever read on what we do, why we do it. It's real short. Hope I can get through it. Ned Jacob wrote this. Looking over my shoulder at my career spanning 50 years, mostly spent in the Rocky Mountain West, the best of times by far were the happy hours spent working out of doors. Ever a challenging and elusive subject, nature is never still. Each location, every hour, in all seasons, shaped and colored by changing light and weather, demands the workman's full arsenal of technical skills, keen powers of observation, and the aesthetic sensitivities of a poet. I consider the finished canvas successful only when the theme, the artist, and the medium speak with equal voice and clarity. The difficulty of execution erased through the fluency of the practiced brush. As Whistler said, painting is hard work. The artistry comes in making it look easy.